Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that on every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, you guys, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many, many reasons why I probably fly that American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. Bill McIntyre on YouTube, good morning to you, my man. Thanks for tuning in. Flo, countdown to Christmas. Corey Buchan, happy Thirsty Thursday. Yeah, you guys, it's coming up quick here, right? You can definitely tell it's a holiday and it's going to be an extended break for a lot of people, because like the auto offices are at an absolute high today for all of my prospecting, but that's to be expected. I do have a very special guest. I'm going to pull him up here in a second, you guys. Anytime something major goes on in ocean freight, he's the one who I want to talk to. This guy is in it. He's deep. He understands it. He's forgotten more about it than most people will ever know. And that's why I have him coming up here in a second. Stuart, the Hobby Trucker, good morning on YouTube. Tracy St. Clair, good morning. James Davis, thank you for tuning in. Good morning to you. And John Radvansky, sure happy it's Thursday. All right, you guys, with that being said, I got him back. The man, the myth, the legend, Steve Ferreira. What is up? Dude, look at the background. Look at that. Oh, your mic is not coming through here. Fernando, good morning to you. I like the background, though.
Chris, I got you.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry, I just had I did another hit this morning. I was on a different system. Hi, sorry about that. Hey, it's good to see you. How are you, man?
Dude, I'm doing well. No, it's all good. Steve, I think you and I are very aligned on that, because it's like when you switch to other platforms, sometimes your mic and camera does not transfer with it at all. That's a very real thing.
I tell you, I've been doing this for so long, and you think I would have it down pat, but technology and the way that automatic systems switch over. I just want to say, I heard your intro, and you know what, Chris? I've known you for a few years now, and you have just gotten so smooth as silk. I mean, I think that there's a phone call that Bloomberg or Reuters is making to you soon.
Wow, that would be interesting. As long as they're open to me, dropping F-bombs left and right, Steve, we can make that happen.
Well, we might have to get you on Joe Rogan first as a trial. So
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say, man. So what is going on out there in your world? So bring people up to date. What's Ocean Audit? Who's Steve? What's your background?
Well, it's been remarkable. My lucky number in life is 42. It was the house number I grew up at. It's the house that my fiance lived at, when we met. 42 means a lot to me. It's my 42nd year in the ocean industry. And I think that as I get older, I'm 63 now, and, I've been in the trade 42 years. That tells you a lot. And just when you think you've seen it all, and you go past these mini and major factors like the pandemic, and I dubbed that period Containergeddon. It seems like now that we're jumping back into a minor or a mini Containergeddon. And, part of me is really, I really hope that the issues in the Red Sea and the Suez, which we're going to talk about today, I do hope that they clear up. But now that I've done a little bit more deep dive into it and talked to a lot of industry sources, I got a feeling that we're in this for the long haul, and this could actually, cause a blip in supply chain disruptions as well as space and rates. And so I'm ready to talk about that all with the audience today, and glad to answer any questions you have, Chris. But I think there's some really interesting dynamics happening, due to the conflicts going on in the Red Sea.
No, definitely. And here, I want to show you guys something. So just so we're all aware, this is just from a Reuters article. This is the area that we're talking about here with the Suez Canal in the shipping line. And they're talking about coming out here from Singapore into Europe. And then like the alternative routes that they're talking about here and what could possibly happen. This article is from Reuters.com, but I just wanted to put a visual out there for everybody who's watching the live stream and who's going to check it out on YouTube later. This is what we're talking about because, it's easy to sit here and say, oh, the Red Sea, the Middle East, but where was the Suez? I mean, no one knew what the Suez Canal was until the Evergreen ship got stuck in it, right? So, because it's like these are, I mean, I think I saw that it's like 14% of global trade goes through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, right?
It's a major thoroughfare. And as a matter of fact, my team was down in the Panama Canal the last 2 weeks. We were shooting film, and that's part of what you see behind me is the ships transiting through the Panama Canal that we built our set around. And the timing was really appropriate because the Panama Canal, has a challenge with the level of the water and not enough rain. So it's causing, ships to be, instead of say 20 ships a day, the Panama Canal, which is, the closest canal to us, can only do 5 ships a day, right? So even the Panama Canal is stressed. But going back to your question on the Suez and the Red Sea, it's certainly an important choke point. Some might say maybe for Europe more than the Americas, but that's not really true though, because, for example, one of the things that I found in my research is that, for example, General Motors made a huge switch that went, it's kind of an exclusive for your show, Chris, that GM traditionally would move their automobiles from Korea, South Korea, on car carriers, ships that are designed for cars. And since the crisis happened in Panama, they switched over to putting new GM cars in ocean containers and moving them through the Suez Canal. So you can well imagine if that was the original plan, say 3, 4, 5 months ago, because they're trying to get over the Panama Canal issues on the water level. Now all of a sudden those automobiles are stuck going around the Cape of Good Hope, which adds 2.5 weeks to the voyage, and the carrying cost and the incremental cost and the supply chain disruptions that go along with that are incredible. It's funny that, we're talking about this because one of the guys that I follow a lot is Professor Sal Mercogliano, and Sal does a lot on what's going on with shipping. And I'm gonna give him credit for this statement, but he said that, right now the U.S. military is trying to intervene, right? Because they have, I think, 3 what they call Arleigh Burke class destroyers that they're thinking of deploying there. And they're really designed to potentially shoot down the Houthi drones. They're very equipped for these special missiles. The problem with these destroyers is that they can't be replenished at sea. In other words, the missiles have to go back into a port to be reloaded. And so it's a very slippery slope. Just don't think that because the U.S. might get involved, that means that the situation is going to normalize itself, Chris.
Yeah, I personally think if the U.S. gets involved, because there, in some of the articles that I broke down, you guys. So just for context, the main article that I'm going to be referencing from some of the information that I've gotten was from Reuters. So if you go to Reuters.com, shipping industry in the dark over U.S.-led Red Sea Navy force. And that's the article that I'm pulling information out there from, because that's one of the big things that they're talking about right now is that there are major countries out there, the U.S. navies. So just for context, you guys, the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was in Bahrain, who is that's the home of the U.S. Navy's headquarters in the Middle East. Instead, Britain, Canada, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain were among some of the nations that are involved in the Red security operation. So what a lot of them are doing is they're going out there and they're essentially putting naval vessels inside of there to protect the shipping lines, right? Because if you ever have paid attention to history in war at all, the first thing they try and do is stop the supply chain from operating at all, or they're trying to disrupt it at a very, very high pace to make things change. I think if the U.S. Navy gets involved and actually, because there's reports that they're shooting down the drones and everything right now, but if there is an actual attack on a U.S. Navy vessel, that's gonna, I would say, shut that off entirely.
Yeah, well, many people think that this is just the beginning. At first I thought maybe it's a short-term blip, but now I'm kind of leaning the other way. Maersk Line came out yesterday and put a full customer disclosure out that talks about the rerouting. I think really one issue that your audience should know about is that it seems that the Houthis are discriminating or discerning between container ships and oil tankers. And there's a specific reason for that, Chris. Obviously, with the ties to the region, the oil revenue is important. So they don't. It seems that they don't really want to hurt the oil tankers, but they're really kind of going more after the containers. Kind of that Western world consumerism mentality. Where they want to hurt the containers. So this is probably more about containers than it is oil tankers.
Which is interesting, right? Because then, yeah, you could say if that's obviously the case, then it's not necessary, because obviously that would choke their own oil supply if they would go after that. So it's just more of an attack on that. And because again, it's just what's the point though, right? That's what I don't really understand, because I understand why they're doing it. Let me rephrase that. But I think knowing that there's a massive U.S. naval stationed in the Middle East anyways, why go after that, right? What is it actually going to prove?
Well, this is a complex question, but one of the things that really is important here is that when this conflict first started, it seemed that the Houthis and the militia were targeting Israeli-owned or Israeli-backed vessels that had some kind of Israeli ownership. Now, the thing you need to know about ships, whether it's an oil ship, oil tanker, or a container ship, ships change names and owners very, very frequently. I can show you one ship and it might have 6 different owners in 3 years. And there's old databases out there that show who owns it. And so one of the theories that we have in some of the communities that I speak in is we think the Houthis might have had an old database that showed that maybe this OOCL ship was Israeli owned at one point, which it was, but right now it's not. So they're kind of going after the wrong kind of ship, but at the same time, now it seems like they're not so focused on whether it's Israeli or whether it's something that could hurt the West, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense, right? And because that was one of those things, the crazy thing about today's day and age, Steve, is you have leaders of some of these terrorist groups who are making tweets and public statements saying, no, we're only going after.
Right.
It's wild times. It really is, right? And that is one of those things that they have talked about, right, is that they want to go after Israeli-backed or Israeli-tied shipping vessels and everything. And, because what you're talking about, the database, I mean, how much should they continue to go down this route if all of this data is old?
Well, I think here's the deal, right? Either the timing is impeccable, or there's an inside strength on. There's an insider on the Houthis that understand how shipping works. Because here's the problem: coming up soon, we have both the Manifest 2024 conference. We have TPM 2024 coming in February and March. Just 8-12 weeks around the corner. This is when all the ocean rates start to get negotiated for 2024. There are some people, and I'm not sure I'm in that camp yet, but some people feel that ocean rates could double. And that would be just traumatic, because everyone is sitting back now. 95% of beneficial cargo owners are thinking, ooh, container getting's over. I can factor in ocean rates at $1,200 or $1,300. But what if they go to $2,600? What if they go to $3,100 because the fuel price goes up because of a potential embargo? So right now is a very, 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 very challenging time to be an analyst in the ocean industry, because this thing could be a powder keg and could change on a dime, Chris.
Yeah. Oh man. Zena, what is up? Good morning to you. Carla Isted, good morning. Stuart, the hobby trucker, it looks like this was answered, but he said because it's conflict driven rather than pandemic driven, could we say NATO really start playing security off the coast like Somalia due to the effect that it will have globally? Carlos Rodriguez, my man, thank you for tuning in. Eric Ransom, happy Thursday. Jeff Dickinson says good morning to you and I, Steve. I mean, is that one of those things, when there are talking about security forces? Most shipping lines have them, right? Because the Somali pirates and then the piracy aspect of things has always been a thing. So Do they have this? Were there any advanced warnings that this could be a thing, or was this a complete surprise attack, do you think?
Well, ever since the incident happened some 10, 15 years ago with the Tom Hanks movie and the Maersk, Alabama, these ships have limited defense mechanisms. And of course, they got the best comms and satellite systems, but the ocean's a pretty darn big place. And, that's one of the challenges in terms of policing it militarily is the fact that, you could have 10 vessels on the US and Canada and Germany, and you wouldn't even be near where the Houthis might be. So, this is a little bit of like, when President Biden comes out and says, oh, we're going to protect the American consumer from the big bad ocean carriers. Well, you can't hit what you can't see. And so This is one of those things, Chris, it's fluid, but now that I sit here today, I think I'm prepared to go on a limb that this is affected, by the way, this is a weird thing, but obviously the stock prices of ocean transportation companies like Zim has shot up in price 25% since the crisis happened. So if it was the Houthis' intent to hurt the Israelis, they've actually made the Israelis more billions because the pressure on ocean rates has caused the Zim stock to go up. So it's kind of had a reverse effect. And I think that's a really important point for your viewers.
Okay. So like, how does this say they step up their attacks, right? Like say that they increase this stuff. Do they shut the Suez Canal off entirely? Do they route everything through Africa, or do they go through an entirely different shipping method at that point and just do air freight? What is that?
Right. Well, the Egyptians will never, ever, let the canal be shut down outside of, just a whole global regional conflict. And I don't see that happening. But the point is if no one's going through it, it's really a moot point, right? Because, Egypt makes, millions of dollars a day. I can't remember what the ship crossing fee is, but it's seven figures in some cases just to go through that thing. And so you have to really look at how the traffic can be rerouted. And I think at the end of the day, probably the worst case scenario is that it does double ocean rates and it does extend the supply chain, 2-3 weeks out versus what might have been planned. Because remember, keep in mind that really in the last couple of weeks and months, we've had literally not many global delays. It's been a shipper's market, right, to enjoy the low rates. That may come to a little bit of a truncation or to an ending point here for a while, and maybe even for the foreseeable future until we understand more geopolitically. And keep in mind also with an election year, they may want to keep this up until there is some change in the American political landscape. Again, this is all speculation.
Yeah, no. So this is coming from, I don't know where this is, but it says that the Suez Canal, it costs for one-way transit anywhere from $625,000 to $675,000.
And that's under normal times. And there's also times where there's war we call war risk premium. And don't forget to mention that these ships are very costly to insure. And so now insurers are actually getting more premiums from the ship owners because of the geopolitical and the war risk of damage to the ships. Because these ships they go down, it's going to cause a major. We could have another. I hate to say, I don't want to speculate, but you think the Ever Given incident was bad. This could be a trouble incident if something did block that canal for weeks or months to come.
No, definitely. I think that there's so much tied in. You brought up the fact that 2024 is an election year, and I think that is going to be a major indicator on kind of like the entire global scale, right? Not just like domestic. U.S. trucking, like there's a lot of stuff that could shake out. I mean, I was talking about this on my show yesterday, Steve, like you could say that we're funding proxy wars or whatever speculative comments that you want to make out there. But like, there's some very real things that could potentially unfold here, before we know it, that could cause an absolute chaos in there. And then on top of that, like you're talking about the Panama Canal in a drought and everything else like that. Those are two crucial choke points in the global supply chain right there, is between the Suez and Panama. And if there's any disruption in that, like that puts us in a very bad position, very bad.
Chris, I think the final takeaway on this point, at least from my perspective, is, it's kind of a sell the news mentality. In my channel and the people that I associate with, we've actually seen this already happening for the last 3 weeks. It seems that this was a very slow event to get into the mainstream news for whatever reason. Maybe because it was like a splinter group, and maybe they didn't think much about what the Houthis could do. But we've known about this. We've seen this, and we've known about this for about 2 or 3 weeks, that this disruption is real, and it could explode. And so it's interesting how the news cycle takes place. And I just think that's one thing your clients and your viewers, should really know about is, get on the ground, talk to your carrier reps, get the latest updates, don't just wait on the news. Reuters, these are great sources. I love Reuters, right? I've got great friends there. Bloomberg, great sources. But this is such an important issue, ladies and gentlemen, pipe into your ocean vendors and your 3PL and NVOCCs and find out what their counterparts at origin and in the Middle East are telling you, because you may glean some information that'll allow you to make a quick movement that could end up saving you millions of dollars. So, and if you save millions, come back to Chris and tell him that, you saved millions thanks to his show.
Yeah. That would be awesome. It's, because if you do pay attention, or if you're out there just Googling what's going on in the Red Sea, there's no real, of course, you guys, it's not, the media will always say it's not our job to provide solutions. It's just our job to over sensationalize what is actually going on out there. And Steve, you bring up great points, right? Like, you need to go out and talk to your actual providers about what's going on, the contingency plans. Like, it was just released a couple of days ago about Maersk is going to start rerouting and everything else. But like, what does this do to your actual product, right? And, and especially, I know like all the holiday stuff is done, but, we're constantly looking, for spring product and everything else and next year that's going on and being assembled right now. So what could possibly happen with that?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of CFOs all the time, and a lot of times I'm talking to CFOs at one company and their logistics leaders at the same company. And the last thing that a CFO wants, or a COO, is to get caught deer in the headlights. Hey, why didn't we plan on that? Why didn't we prepare for that? That's why I encourage all my logistics friends that are reporting. Right now, because of the post-Containergeddon after the pandemic, so many logistics teams have great visible insight to the CXO and the C-suite. And it's very important to keep your leadership abreast of what's happening there and not just kind of think this is going to go away, because the decisions you make in terms of how you route the cargo right now with shipments leaving X factory, it could really make a big determination where your sales are for 2024. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of reaching out to your vendors to get the latest and greatest, especially from your buying offices as well. Keep plugged in very tightly.
I like it. So you were saying that you were out there down in the Panama Canal, Steve. So what's going on, man? If you had boots on the ground, how are things looking from that perspective?
Well, Panama is a very complicated place. I actually had plans to be there myself for a couple of days to do some of the filming. We're doing a lot of behind the scenes filming for a documentary that we're putting together. But Panama's gone through extraordinary political upheavals. There's been strikes. There's been a lot of, my team told me, please, Steve, for your own security, don't come down. Now, the canal has always been very well kind of, I don't want to say militarized, but nobody's going to really mess with it. The canal issue right now are really natural resource issues associated with the fact that it's just been very dry in Panama. So they're limiting the amount of ships. But when you have multiple things going on with 2 choke points, Panama Canal, Suez Canal, Red Sea, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier for, and I'm just making this up, carrier XYZ to take an $800 increase to cite increased operational cost and, pass that along to the customer. So I really believe, in my humble heart of hearts here, that customers could expect some kind of increase, if not a surcharge, such as what we call a war risk surcharge, which is an unusual surcharge, but we have seen it come into play before for cargo transiting through especially in the EMEA, Middle East region.
Yeah. No, I think that this is also something to, it's going to be something at all times, right? And I think like when we see these conflicts escalate, or when we see these issues, nobody knows about them. And I mean, essentially you can say until it's too late, right? And then it's that scramble point, right? Like this is from my perspective, like this is why you need to be having real conversations. You can't take any of this stuff and, and hell, you could even argue that anything that you're hearing on this show right now, you have to go out there and talk to the people who have actual boots on the ground instead of, thinking that they might know something about it. This is why I don't comment on stuff until I get a guy like Steve who can come on and talk about this, right? Because otherwise I'd just be complete speculation and complete BSing everybody.
Well, Chris, I think to synergistically tie that off, I think that right now what's happening is a little bit like if you buy a stock and you see it go down and down and down and down and down, and you don't sell it, you just hope it will rebound. I think it may be in some ways too late. Some logistics managers have already made the decision. Well, we're not going to ship that mode until it clears up, and they're thinking, oh, it'll clear up in 10 days, in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden it becomes 3 months and 4 months. Those companies are really going to be challenged, to execute their supply chain. And then what happens? Guess what, right? Then they have to air freight those goods. And that adds another 10 times cost onto what the original was. So this has a bullwhip, kind of a rebound, ricochet effect all over the world because, like you and I, everyone's so different. Everyone has their own different philosophy, business strategy, sourcing and supply chain strategy. There's not one right way to do it other than what's the right thing for your company. And that's why I'm so blessed and pleased that you have me on today, because if I can change one mindset to look at this as a more substantial issue than they are, then you and I will have accomplished the whole point of your show.
No, and I agree. I think it's a lot larger issue than anybody is even remotely alluding to, because this isn't something like, again, if you want to think longer term, right? If you're talking about the 2024 freight market, this conflict that's going on out there, you guys, isn't going to end tomorrow, right? Like there is, I mean, who knows how long this is going to go on? Like, I mean, and frankly, there's been unrest in the Middle East for 2,500 years. So if you're a betting individual, chances are it's not going to go away anytime soon. And how does that affect your flow of goods going into 2024? I think it's going to be, I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon, man, if I'm just speculating.
And I would offer one last thing too. It's just very strange right now in some ways because of the timing. And I'm not talking just because of the financial markets. Here we are on today, and then Monday is Christmas. But we've got financial markets that are going to be stopping trading. Traders have gone away. We could see incredible potential whipsaws in our American stock market if there's a conflict, and in oil prices as well. So we have to really be careful and keep our eye on the Bloombergs, the CNBCs, anything that we believe in from our investment advisors, because this not only affects cargo, it affects your 401k. So
yeah, just a little caveat there. There's a little Christmas present from Steve. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Steve, as always, man, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk.
It's my pleasure.
How does anybody reach out to you or find out more or anything like that?
The best way is always through my profile on LinkedIn. I kind of pride myself on being a solopreneur, so I never say my company is Ocean Audit. I always say it's Ocean Audit by Steve Ferreira, since when I take on a client, it's me giving the service. But I say through LinkedIn, or you could send me an email at stevef@oceanaudit.com. I appreciate you having me on today, Chris.
No, anytime, Steve. And as always, if you guys can't find Steve, just reach out to me. I'll put you guys in direct contact with him. But that is going to be it for today, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do our Friday Q&A day. So if you have any sales or operations related questions for the transportation industry, drop them in the chat, DM them over. I'll answer them live. And as always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network. This is how we reach more people, but most importantly, how we help more people is because of each and every one of you, and the fact that if you see value, your network will see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. And now the